So my book Real Growth is finally out. The culmination of over 200 podcasts with some of the leaders in the industry. It's taken me about 2 years to pull it together, so it is available now. It's on Amazon, so check out the link in my bio and please let me know how you get on with it. It's all designed to really help people through 3 sections of growth, mindset and business. So check it out, let me know what you think. So I was with John Hartley at St George's Park, meeting him in his role at Perform, who are based out of there. It's a really interesting setup that they got there, where they take a certain number of players, and it's all funded, and take them through, as many elite teams do, on a week-long programme. So quite a unique setup in an amazing facility at St George's Park. John's a really experienced person. I've known him for many years in his various roles. So he talked about what it's like now not being directly in a team, and the changes of that, and also just how the process works at Perform. So check it out, let me know what you think. John, great to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming and seeing us down at St George's Park.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, last time you were at Derby, now we're at St George's Park. So
yeah, a few changes, mate. A few changes.
Yeah. So tell me, we've interacted with Jake over the years and been to St George's Park. We do work with the England team as well. Caught up with Ritan earlier on. So what's your role here at Perform?
Yeah, obviously since leaving football, I've done a good bit of work with Jake and the team at Perform, and then I came on board probably about 6 months ago. Full time as a clinical lead for the company. So it's been really exciting, really different. We support players, anyone who's been a member of the PFA. So it's PFA support, obviously the players that are at clubs as well as out of clubs, and need that sort of clinical support, rehabilitation. You know, if they picked up an injury and they don't have a club around them, they can come and use the scheme through the triage scheme that we run. And to come into this residential rehab scheme where we're fortunate enough, obviously, to be based here at St George's Park, and you know, we do a lot of work over at Loughborough University as well, and between the two provide that support for those players. Clubs can also use us to come and book in if they need help, or they've got some long-term injuries that they want to break up rehabilitation, give them a different environment. You know, having people sort of with experience, obviously I've been in the game for a good period of time, that they know that they can call upon and just have a conversation saying, look, you know, do you mind having one of our players there this week, and support them through mainly like the longer term injuries really, so hamstring repairs, ACLs, Achilles tendon ruptures, those types of things are the most common that we see. But yeah, it's providing that service for physios and physios at clubs that, look, there's been a lot, hasn't there, conversations about a lack of support sometimes, or people being isolated, or people not having someone to turn to and discuss things with, particularly as you get maybe in the clubs in maybe, you know, League One, League Two, just for them to know that there's someone here who's, you know, worked in that environment, knows what they have to deal with day in, day out, and yeah, provide a support for the player really, which is great. So we take 7 players a week at the PFA fund, anywhere between 6 and 8 really, so kind of on average 7, and yeah, support the clubs or support the individual, week to week. So new players turn up Monday, they disappear at the end of the week, and another set come. So it's totally different to being in a club in that sense, where you kind of know the players so well, sometimes better than they know themselves. But yeah, a really good new challenge. I'm enjoying it, mate.
Yeah, that's good. And so what's the criteria then that those people have to meet to be able to come here?
So
it's quite an expensive service, I would have thought, staying here.
Yeah, obviously, you know, to have in sort of the intensive rehab and the support and be based here for the week, obviously, yeah, you know, there's a cost implication to that. The PFA do an amazing job to support their members as they would do. So each player per injury can visit the scheme 3 times. We generally try and spread that out a bit through the injury so that they have support through the process. As long as they're an active PFA member, you know, they can access that. Like I say, you can get into the scheme here 2 ways really. One is through the triage system, where or the accident fund, as the PFA would term it, where if they don't have that support necessarily at club level, they've left a club or they're off contract or they've, just worked their way down, so they don't necessarily have full-time support. They can access it through, applying to the PFA. I need some help. They'll go through a triage system with Perform that the company have set up the infrastructure for, which is fantastic, really. And then some of those guys will either come and get support here, or we can arrange regional support near to them through local physios. So again, you'll know a few of your bodies if you like. A lot of the guys sort of around Manchester that we've all worked with before in the past will provide regional support and treatment for players locally. We can arrange them a scan, we can arrange them to see a consultant, and the PFA support that. So it's a massive thing, and we manage that as a company for them. To make it as simple and straightforward for them as it can be. So they can enter the system that way, or directly through a club. The club can contact us and say, look, we've got a couple of players. This week we've got 3 female players, 3 male players, a couple from WSL2, which the PFA have just extended to support, which is great. And, a couple from, league clubs as well. So they can just access directly, really, through communication with myself and the team to come, and we arrange them, a time slot when there's one available to come in.
I think it's really interesting. I was at a clinic last week in London, and they're offering support for players, and it seems like the feedback they've had from the clubs and the players is it's quite nice sometimes to have that fresh environment. Yeah. People getting out of that and coming into a place where they're with a new environment. So how's that been from your side? Do you see that as being beneficial?
Yeah, sometimes, particularly, it's like if you're out and you've got a long-term injury, sometimes, like I say, just having a change of environment just to, get refreshed, go again, it's sometimes difficult going, even if it's the best gym in the country, going in the gym each day, the rest of the team go out on the grass, you're there, you're doing your work, like, just to go and change the environment, breath of fresh air, go back in and just sort of reboots you a little bit. And I think, again, even having those conversations with clubs where they know that they can, with our experience that we have as well, that they can sometimes, I'm not sure, it's almost like a second opinion for them that's there as a bit of a if they need it, we're here to support, not question what's going on, if you like. So it's really important that, the communication between clubs before players come from a club specifically, and then obviously when they're leaving at the end of the week to then hand back over, if you like. But the players that come really enjoy. Look, we're lucky here and at Loughborough. We've got 2 fantastic facilities that we can support players in. So it's just a nice change of environment. The aim is they get refreshed, they go back, and they're ready to kick on. That's what we're here to support. We're all just trying to get them fit, but working together is. It's been interesting for me because I've probably spoken to more people at more clubs since leaving than in the 25 years of being in a club where you're kind of so insular and you're dealing with what you have to deal with day in, day out. But yeah, you're speaking to staff members from Championship clubs, League 1, League 2, WSL teams, and again, a lot of those people I would probably not interact with or come across or meet necessarily had it not been for sort of this change and shift in doing what I'm doing. So like, I'm enjoying that. Like, some crazy conversations with physios going, all right, like, that's great, yeah, thanks for handing the player over. What do you think about this? This is happening at the club, how do I deal with that? Or, which has been, I didn't expect any of that, but it's quite nice from, mentor has been a bit strong, isn't it? But being someone to bounce ideas off, or being someone to support others and sort of hopefully support their development and growth in things that I've kind of done in the past, or situations I've found myself in, or that kind of thing. That's been really good from a, I guess, self, leadership, my own development, my own, growth, if you like, of what I'm trying to do now. That's been like a bit of a strange added bonus that I didn't see coming. So it's good. But the players love it. They have a great time when they come, because they're all from different clubs, different levels maybe, different backgrounds. And instead of just being at a club environment where you know each other that well, everyone probably treats each other in the same way. Once you have a role within an environment, it's difficult to break that. When they come here, they can, they're starting afresh with people. Or quite nicely, sometimes they come back and one of the, 6 or 8 people who are kind of here were here the last time they came. So it's like, oh, good to see you again. How are you getting on with your injury? So it's quite nice to see them interact like that too. So they really enjoy it, and I think it's an amazing thing the PFA obviously do to support. So it's good for us to see that, because we see them develop from each stage of the 3 visits that they can have, and just see how they I just needed a change. Just needed to change from where I was and get out of the gym, or the whatever they wouldn't. I'm in the dungeon of the gym, or the gym's not in, whatever environment they've been in. It's just if they've been at a lower environment, to come here is amazing, or go to Loughborough is amazing. Or even if they have got a great gym, it's just like, oh, I couldn't go in that same room again and do the same stuff. Yeah. So no, they're always pretty upbeat. It's good. We've got a good group this week that seem to be interacting with each other. It's the first time, I think, where we've had that good split between male and female players, like totally 50-50. Normally it's male dominant. So that's a real good shift for us as a company, and for the PFA to support the women's game, which is something we're really trying to do.
So you mentioned this week here then. So what are and they may not name the clubs that they're at, but what levels are they playing at?
Yeah, so we've got sort of a League 1 player, League 2 player from the men's side. We've got the female athletes. Two of them have come from the same club, from a WSL2 club. One's a free agent, having returned from Australia with a bit of an injury, so she's just getting herself fit, and we're supporting that. It's a sort of 3rd visit, I think, so far. And yeah, then one of the other players again has just left the championship club. He's had a couple of injuries, and he's just trying to again get himself back to a level where he can then go and try and earn himself another contract somewhere. So but yeah, it's funny when they come in, I feel so old now. We've been around for so long. It's like I've worked at one of the clubs one of the guys is from, and he's like, oh yeah, when did you start there? And I was like, oh well, like 2000. He's like, he was born in like 2005 or something. So but yeah, he's funny. But yeah, so we've got a good mix really across the levels and across the leagues, and hopefully those that don't have clubs, we can support them to get back to getting a club, which would be great for them.
No, that's really interesting. So what does the day look like for them?
So through the week, Monday when they arrive is like a bit of obviously we don't necessarily know them, it might be the first time they visited, so that's sort of a physio assessment. We give the staff an hour to spend with the player, or up to an hour to spend with the player if you like, so they can really sort of make sure they get the full history of it, like just a normal physio assessment if you like, get the past medical history, put that together with what we see in front of us. When they finish that, they go into testing, sort of a period of time where they can go through different tests. So whether that's using some of obviously the equipment, so isokinetic dynamometry, we might, for example, if someone comes with a knee, we might be looking at their strength with that. Just objective markers really. Some of the jumps, we use VALD equipment for the jumps, use a force dex, use a force frame, use a null board. We use sort of that equipment from VALD to kind of build a profile really of the player. Combine that with obviously the medical history of what they've got, and in the afternoon, so a little break for lunch, then we give them a rest after we've battered them and measured them, and then in the afternoon sort of spend some time with them. They really, talk me through what you've been doing in your rehab, show me what you've been doing in your rehab, is there anything we can add? It's sometimes it's like the program's great, no problem, we don't need to change a great deal. Other times you think, right, well I think we can add a bit of value here and support you in a different way, or we could tweak it this way and that just comes down to then the experience of the physio that's with them, or the S&C coach that's with them, to sort of go, look, if we can tweak this, we think we might be able to help a little bit more. So that's kind of Monday. Tuesday, Thursday are quite similar, a bit like being at a club really. Come in the morning, treatment, mobility, prep before if they're going on the pitch that morning, prep work in the gym and then out onto the grass. Those that are not ready for field-based rehab obviously then do their work in the gym through the morning, and in the afternoon then it's back in the gym then. That might be for like general lowers or whatever. If they've been on the grass in the morning, they'll come back in the afternoon and do their sort of specific rehab in the afternoon. And Wednesday we again go through we bring all the guys back together, go through some mobility work, some upper body work, core work, a pool session on a Wednesday. Thursday pretty similar, and on Friday they you know, return to their clubs and we hand back to the club and get a handover there. So yeah, ideally at least if they're ready for the pitch, 2 outdoor sessions on the grass, 2 upper sessions Monday afternoon. So obviously because we've tested them in the morning, so the lower limbs are generally tired. Monday afternoon and Wednesday. Couple of lower sessions on Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. So I've tried to support what was here before and then build on that again with experience of being at a club, what that looks like for these guys coming in from clubs. So it's familiar to them. We're in an unfamiliar environment for them, but then how it's structured hopefully is a familiar way to how they usually work through a day. So the flow of it becomes quite natural to them, and it's not something weird and wonderful. It's just building on what hopefully is already in place at the clubs for them.
Yeah, it sounds great on it as well. So like, do they all stay here?
So obviously, ideally they'll stay. There's obviously the hotel on site at St George's Park. There's a hotel on site at Loughborough. As with anything, like ideally, yes, they stay on site. Sometimes we obviously have to go off site depending on what events are going on certain times. But yeah, ideally, we try to get them to be based on the site. So again, they kind of come and live here or Loughborough for the week, as it were. But no, it's good. It's good. It's a really, like I say, it's a really good environment where they all see each other with different injuries, different stages, and encourage each other sort of through the process of, you know, working. And it's quite nice because a lot of them don't know each other that well, but quite quickly they have that one thing in common. They're all trying to get fit, and they're all trying to come here to work hard and you know, develop and get on from their injuries. So yeah, the support that they give each other as well is great to see. Because yeah, sometimes they don't maybe expect it from someone that they don't know. So it's good to know that there's other people. We had one week where with a very rare injury, a male and female athlete turned up and they'd had the same surgery. Neither of them had ever met anyone who'd had the same surgery in foot. And they're both at professional clubs. They were both, but neither of them had seen anyone. So for them to meet someone who had the same injury, which wasn't a common surgical intervention, they were like, to see him like, well, did you do this? Did you, like, you know, that was great. And like, I know that they kept in touch afterwards to sort of support each other through. Whereas without this scheme and without that, they'd never have met, and they'd have gone through it not on their own, but no one to bounce off of. Like, did this feel weird when you did that, and did that feel strange? So yeah, it's good because it brings people from, you know, literally, we've got a player from Scotland this week, you know, from all over the country that would never meet, obviously being in clubs or, you know, male or female sport, that brings them together. Like, that was a male and female athlete that would never ever cross paths if it wasn't for them meeting here. So yeah, no, it's yeah, I feel it's really rewarding. Like, at a club sometimes I always felt they did appreciate it, all the lads appreciated everything you did for them, but sometimes because you were there all the time, taken for granted is unfair, but I mean, you're there all the time, so you that is your role, that is what the purpose you serve in a club environment. And sometimes you don't, like I say, I know they always did, you know, were thankful of the help, but at the same time it's just, well, this is just a process.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it?
Yes.
They're with you for a period of time, and then naturally it's an unusual circumstance for them as well, isn't it, being out of their environment on it as well. Like, how do you find, like you mentioned, it was good that some of the people are asking for input from the clubs. And we've had various chats both on camera and off camera, as I do with loads of other people, of it's difficult in teams, and like everyone finds it challenging, and sometimes it's hard to trust people and all of those bits. So how have the medical teams responded to working with you on that?
Yeah, one of the biggest things for me coming into this role is to build relationships with clubs. I think, you know, speaking to Jake and Carl, who've been at Perform for a long time, you know, that was probably one of the aspects that they felt was, you know, I've always felt that's really important, but maybe that had not been as pushed as much as we could push it, if you like. Maybe because they, you know, didn't have someone who'd been in that environment for so long that knew a lot of the people anyway. So, and I think it's a big thing now to help build that trust between clubs to know. And I've had a few conversations where sometimes people have come in and we've not necessarily thought, oh well, I think maybe they're doing a bit too much for where they're at, or they could be doing a bit more. And having those conversations with the physios looking after them, or the medical teams looking after them, saying, oh, what we see and feel might be slightly different to what you see and feel. The important thing is building that trust, is not then going to the player, oh, I don't think you should be doing this, I don't think you should be doing that. That's not how any of us would manage a situation. So it's about being open and saying, look, we see this when we see the player. What have you seen? Because obviously they've got to that point. Okay, and then bringing that together and us working as a team, although we'd obviously not part of the same company or same club or whatever it might be, we're there to support, not there to dictate, if you like. We think this, we think that. It's about, our opinion is this. How do we blend that together with where the player is at? Because we all want the same thing. We want the player to be fit. So we all have the same end goal. It's just with a different pair of eyes or a different experience, or none of us, we're all still learning. I still come across things that I've not seen before, and you're going, right, crikey, and I'll ring up people going, how do you manage this? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we learn. That's how we all develop. But making sure for the player that a united front of what we think's best for you in this stage is put forward, rather than the last thing anyone wants is a player going, well, I went to see someone and they told me this, and I went to see somebody else and they told me that, and they just end up confused or caught in the middle. They don't know what to do, and then everything sort of breaks down. So that's what we're trying to avoid ultimately, by building those relationships with the club, so they can trust us and know that they'll get that support. It won't be a case of, oh, what are you doing that for, or what are you doing this? That's not what we're here for. And I'd never want to be treated like that if one of my players at the club went somewhere else. So I'd treat everyone as I'd want to be treated myself, with the respect of, and that might be, sometimes someone might have very limited experience at a club, and that doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. They might just not have seen something, or they might not have dealt with that situation before. So given the experience I have, it's to try and help them or talk through them what all our ideas are and bring it together and what the best plan is to go forward. But yeah, I think sometimes that's the worry, isn't it? If you send people to see someone else, what if they say something that's totally different to what you're thinking? And that's for any of us. And we've all had it at clubs where a player's decided to go and see someone and they say this and I shouldn't be doing that. And that's where at club level it breaks down. So our sort of remit, our role is to support the practitioners that are dealing with it day in, day out. That's what we're here to do, and to support, like those staff members that maybe don't have someone to bounce off sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you're really experienced. You can bring that to those situations. And so for you, then, you mentioned some of the good stuff. Like, what are your aspirations of what you want to do with your time? I've only known you from when you've been working in a club.
Yeah.
So how has it been for you, that transition?
Strange, as expected, I suppose. First Christmas off in 25 years. So, or 20 years, to be fair. The first 5 was in the academy, but for a long time. So very, very strange. I feel like I'm out of football, but still in football, given where we are today, and given, what's on the other side of the door over there and the different players. Like, you're never far away from football in this role. So, I wouldn't say that I'd never go back to football, but at this moment in time, it's quite a nice break, given my, the age of my children, and, being able to spend time and see them do their sports. And soon enough, I'm sure they'll get old enough and do their own thing, and then they won't want me pottering around anyway. So yeah, no, it's a really different environment, but I don't feel I'm too far removed from football, or from sport. Obviously, days of rugby league, not to forget. So yeah, I'm in a really good halfway house, if you like. I've still been able to deliver. So I'm, as you called me earlier, I was in the gym doing rehab with the guys, which I really enjoy. So I can still do that. I can still deliver that side. I can still then do sort of the leadership, management, those aspects of my role on a couple of days a week in that sense. So when it comes to things, being the clinical lead or managing a team and a department in that sense, and or being part of the company. You know, I'm now learning those other bits, which are really interesting and probably developing me more so than just being at a club for a bit longer again. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and then you're doing some work with my old company, albeit it's rebranded. How's that going?
It's always difficult to follow in your footsteps, Andy.
It's a long time now, so I think you'll be all right.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, so I also do some work with Kiko Health, like IPRS Mediquip have rebranded as Kiko Health, which again just acts to support the work I do here, really. And you know, they provide a lot of different equipment, so isokinetic dynamometry, ultrasound scanners, some electrotherapy type equipment, shockwave, you know, all the types of things that you're well and truly familiar with at PhysiQuip. But yeah, they've rebranded. They're trying to, you know, develop that. The company developed the brand that they have now with a variety of different bits of equipment. I think historically they're probably dominant for one or two pieces of equipment. You know, they really try to expand that portfolio, if you like, and give a bit more coverage across different equipment. But you know, it's equipment or the similar types of equipment that we use in-house here with Perform as well. So it's a nice balance between the two, where I can go for my own development too, go and do some educational pieces or go into clubs and do some teaching. You know, it's out there. So I went and helped Wrexham in pre-season do some of their isokinetic testing, which was great to be part of, obviously, the environment that they're building over there. And, you know, fantastic team. You know, I just dipped in and out for the day to help. So that provides me that insight and that connection with clubs. Like we said, it's about relationships and developing that side of Perform, but it's also with Kiko Health to build those relationships and trust. Obviously, given my background, if I speak to people from that environment, then as you know me, I'm a true Yorkshireman. I'm pretty honest in that sense, and yeah, you know, people trust your opinion, don't they? Because you've been there and you've been on the side of it at a club where this bit of kit's not quite worked or something's not quite right, and knowing that there's always someone to turn to ask a question. And I think that's a big part of my role for them as well, of that support as sort of the senior clinical lead and product strategist to support clubs in that way, you know, because we've seen both sides of it, so we know what things need to be and how things need to work. But yeah, it really blends nicely with the work that I can still do with Perform, delivering the rehab, which is, you know, obviously it's always been. I'm a bit similar to my old boss. Put me behind a desk, I'm a disaster, but put me in the gym or on the field and do some rehab, there's a smile on my face. So unfortunately, as we all go on in life, and the higher up that we go in you know, business or clubs or whatever it might be, it goes a bit more, doesn't it, where there's a bit more paperwork and a bit less delivery. So this is you know, I'm lucky, you know, that I can do both.
Yeah.
And enjoy both, you know.
That's really good. I'm actually, because I'm really trying to get rid of that paperwork bit at the moment, and I'm doing quite well of getting out of it. So all I want to do is come and have these conversations. Yeah. But like the stuff you mentioned, I think trust is fundamental to everything. Like I was just with Paul Williamson, who was involved in this place when it was Spire run, and you just think there is a lot of negativity out there, whether it's in all walks, whether it's in business, in politics and stuff, and I've got no time for any of it really. It's like, look, how are we going to raise standards, raise purpose-driven clinicians, businesses, really positive about all the massive opportunities that are out there now. But ultimately, there's a lot of noise of different companies doing different things, different clinicians at team, whatever it is. But how do you get that trust piece? And I think that's what you bring to what you're doing.
I hope so. That's the aim and the goal. Again, obviously, like you've got your book out at the moment. I was looking through, obviously, you know, it was great to be part of that too, so thank you for that. But going through the bits of like nurturing a culture, if you like, and bringing that environment of trust. I mean, things fall down if no one trusts each other. And my ego is probably long since gone, in the sense of, well, I've got to deliver this, I've got to do this because I'm great at this or I'm great at that. Like, I'm not bothered about that for me anymore, because history is surviving. As long as I've survived, I must have done something okay along the way. And you know, I really love my profession as a physio and always want to be moving forward. And like I say, in my early days, must have driven people bonkers because I was so desperate to get there. But you need that drive from staff. You need that enthusiasm from staff. You need to sort of harness that it's not a competition. We're all going to do well if we do it right, and we trust each other. And as a team, we'll move forward as a team, as between clubs and us as a group at Perform. If we build those relationships and build that trust, your business is built. Let's be honest, your business is built a huge amount on trust, because people are quite happy to speak to you. People trust your opinion. There's no hidden agenda from any of us. It's just about trying to support the players, that in my context, support the players to the best of our ability. And whether that's a player who has no support or whether that's a player who does have support from a club, we're only going to get that if we have trust and be open to how we develop a service and how we can improve things. Because without it, if it's a competition, like you mentioned before, where what we do here is amazing, it's the best thing ever, and it's better than whatever's happening elsewhere, why would anyone send anyone here? Because they're just going to come back going, oh, they say that they're the best and it's the best. It's not that. I'm over that in life. I just want us to be the best that we can be and provide the best service that we can provide. But to do that, all parties who are involved in somebody's rehab need to be open to communicate and trust each other that, there is no hidden agenda. We just want people to get back as quickly and safely as possible from their injury. And that's probably where my goals are in life now. But look, I wasn't always like that. So it's taken me time to come away from it being, I just wanted to be the best physio that I could, that everyone wanted to come and see me. I was the most important thing. And as you get a bit older, you realise, well, actually, that's totally wrong. But in the early days, that blind enthusiasm and drive was probably what's got me to where it's got me in life, So yeah, difficult balance, but now I'm a bit older and wiser, maybe. I think, it's just about, again, just delivering the best thing you can deliver, being part of creating the best environment you can create, and then, for working with people outside your own organisation is gaining that trust and respect that they trust you to send the players here.
Well, I remember one of your quotes from the book actually was talking about, you said you thought you were driving Kells and Dave Fever mad just with like your enthusiasm for doing it, but also you want that as well, don't you? You need to have that enthusiasm for it, and it's well intentioned.
Yeah, it was always like with good intention, and because they knew that, they were always like, they would tap me on the head and go like, just relax, time will come. But that drive, in essence, that took me to leaving a really safe environment at Blackburn Rovers to go into rugby league, a sport that I'd never worked in before, a sport I'd never really followed before, and much to the amusement of the guys when I got to rugby league, and they noticed like, crikey, this guy's not a rugby league man, but they trusted my professional capabilities, saw that enthusiasm and willingness to learn, and harnessed me, to go on and do that. And we were really successful in at Warrington, and then I was with England for 2 years. So yeah, like, you've got to have that, otherwise you won't, rightly or wrongly, and I know there's a lot of talk about medical staff and surviving and the demands of the job and things, but I think if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't have lasted for 25 years, or didn't have that built-in ingrained of what I wanted to achieve in life. It's funny when I talk to friends, like, they're like, I always knew what I wanted to do. I always knew, rightly or wrongly, that I wanted to be, head physio, at a top football club. And that was my goal from the off. I didn't even bat an eyelid. And then some of my friends were like, how how is it so clear in your mind what you want to do? I've got no idea what I want to do. I was like, I don't know, but that's just how it was. I didn't know any different. And yeah, now sort of reflecting and looking back on 25 years, it's been time consuming, but 25 years well spent. You know, some great joy over the years, which sort of brushes over a bit of the difficult times, isn't it?
Yeah, but everyone's got those, and like I said, you've done it, and now it's great that you're able to pass that forward to the people. So, yeah, no, appreciate it, mate. Thank you for the tour here. I know we can't show too much because we're in the FA building and so on, but no, I really appreciate the time and giving me some understanding of the tour.
No, thanks. Like I say, good to chat. You know me, I could talk for hours, so well done for keeping it short.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thank you.